TGIF. And the Toronto Blue Jays are 13-7 on Friday so far this season, so they agree with the whole TGIF thing as well. Now, today in the Locked On Blue Jay podcast, we're going to get set for this weekend series as the Blue Jays are back in Toronto and ready to rumble with the Cleveland Guardians.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, friends. Craig Ballard, Locked On Blue Jays. Yes, indeed, been locked on Toronto Blue Jay baseball for as long as I can remember. Blue Jay baseball is a big deal for me. Blue Jay baseball is a big deal for my family as well. I'm thinking that describes you also, since you're taking time out of your day to chat Toronto Blue Jay baseball with me and to deep dive the 2023 Toronto Blue Jay season with me. Certainly thank you for that. Much appreciated. Now, the Locked On Blue Jay podcast, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to remind you that all Toronto Blue Jay action this season available for you on Sirius XM. And if you're taking in today's episode on the Locked On Blue Jays YouTube page, hello, thank you for checking in. Please hit that like, leave that comment, and if you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe. And to the everydayers making the Locked On Blue Jay podcast your first podcast listen every day, certainly want to say thank you for that as well. I was looking at the analytics yesterday, and it's so cool. It's very interesting. I mean, oh, she's just hit my Blue Jay hat there. And here I am talking about the podcast listeners, and I'm describing something. So that wasn't great for the podcast listeners. So I apologize there, but I want to shout out the podcast listeners because, Spotify, Apple, however you take in your podcast, I'm seeing people checking in, downloading it from Hong Kong, Singapore, the Philippines, Great Britain. There's so many places around the world. Really, yesterday was really my first time diving into that aspect of it, the sort of the geographical aspect of it, and it was so cool to see. You can imagine making a daily Toronto Blue Jay podcast. It's a grind. I mean, it's a labor of love. Do not get me wrong on that. And I certainly hope that's how I come across as something, a labor of love. I love doing this every day and interacting with everybody, but you can imagine that it's taxing. You can imagine it's tiring. I have to have a full-time job on top of this as well. So you can imagine the ins and outs that go along with something like this. So it really, boosted my spirits to see that, wow, it's not just, in Canada, there's a lot of downloads from the US as well and around the entire world. So for me, just about the coolest thing. So I do want to say hello and I do want to thank you. Now, the Toronto Blue Jays, this is the part of the schedule where things really open up. 15 straight games against teams under 500. Now, these first three against Cleveland, yes, they're under 500, but they're a second-place team, and they still have playoff aspirations. They could definitely still catch the Minnesota Twins, and that is their goal, of course, in the AL Central. After this three-gamer against Cleveland, it's 12 straight against last-place teams. Now, not ironically, very upsettingly, three of those games are against the Washington Nationals, who are as almost as hot as Seattle and the Dodgers, if you can believe that. The Nationals in the second half have been incredible. But anyway, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We want to focus on this upcoming weekend series, of course, because the playoff race is TIGHT. It is tight. And we've been focused, of course, on the AL wildcard race. But for this series, I think it's imperative to mention that the Guardians are chasing the Minnesota Twins in the AL Central. That's their chance to make the playoffs. The Guardians don't have a wild card chance. Their chance is to track down the Twins, and the Twins are in a series currently with the Texas Rangers. So I was thinking about this. If we were locked on Guardians, right, if we were Cleveland Guardians fans, how would we be approaching this weekend with the Toronto Blue Jays? Well, I think we'd be sitting there saying, hey, if we can come in here and take 2 out of 3 in Toronto, we're likely going to gain a game on Minnesota if that's the case. Certainly not going to lose ground. Minnesota's not going to win Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against Texas. I just don't see that happening. But after this series against the Blue Jays, over the next 10 days, Cleveland will play Minnesota 6 times. So I think if you're Cleveland, you're looking to win this series, take 2 out of 3, get some momentum, probably gain a game. So in those 6 games in the next 10 days against Minnesota, you've positioned yourself to track them down. And if you're Cleveland, hopefully pass the Twins. So this is a big series for both of these teams here. Now, the Guardians come into this series limping a little bit here. They were just swept by the Dodgers in a doubleheader yesterday. That was a 4-game series against the Dodgers, and now the Guardians took game 1 8-3. Actually, they did very well. I'm pretty sure, 8-3 in game 1. Did really well in that game, but then lost the last 3. And in losing the last three, they scored 1 run, and 3 runs. I mean, Cleveland's offense is really, really, really bad. Yes, worse than the Toronto Blue Jays. I know, but yes, worse than the Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, Josh Naylor, some CanCon. Josh Naylor's been awesome, absolutely awesome. A huge bat for Cleveland. So his career is going to be extremely exciting. There's 2 other Naylor brothers. Bo's already here, and there's another one that just got drafted as well. So shout out, by the way, some CanCon, some Canadian content there to the Naylor family. But yeah, Josh Naylor hurt right now. He's coming back. He picked up a bat a couple days ago. He's starting to swing and get ready to go again. But he won't be back in this Blue Jay series. Now, of course, you'll remember, your mind's eye will remember that these 2 teams split a 4-game series in Cleveland a few weeks back. Now, the first thing I want to look at here is which Blue Jays need to continue what they did in that series versus which Toronto Blue Jays really need to pick it up. Let's get into that. Start with Whit Merrifield. Now, Whit Merrifield in that series a few weeks back in Cleveland was 6 for 13, and we saw 2-hit Whit have a game. We saw 3-hit Whit have a game. He played in 3 of those 4 games. But I'm glad that there's cause for optimism this weekend for Whit Merrifield, because I don't know about you, but my goodness, I was extremely disgruntled with Whit Merrifield on this road trip. This road trip for sure was the worst stretch of baseball that Whit Merrifield has had as a Toronto Blue Jay. It's probably one of the worst stretches of baseball he's had in a long time. Now, John Schneider just so bad at this. So not all that is Whit Merrifield's fault, right? There were at least a couple of games on this road trip where Davis Schneider should have been in there. I don't even think Schneider's had a start since he got that game-winning home run. I mean, jeez, I have to calm myself down now. Anytime I get going on John Schneider, I mean, he is just so bad. Oprah taught us, a long time ago, when somebody tells you who you are, you believe them. John Schneider's been shouting from the rooftops ever since he was the interim manager that I am awful at this. I am terrible at this. For some reason, Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins can't hear it. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's move on. Vladdy, 6 for 16 with a walk in that series against Cleveland. Vladdy hit well in that series. Brandon Belt, 3 for 12. 3 for 12 with no walks and 6 strikeouts. Does that sound like the Brandon Belt we've known and loved since after April? We know April was horrible, but no, Brandon Belt's going to need to pick it up in this series. Kevin Biggio. Now, Biggio was just 2 for 9 in that series a few weeks back against Cleveland. But you remember, one of those hits was that game-winning home run, and he made that defensive play as well. So hopefully, 2 for 9, I get it. What's there to be excited about there? But I think we do feel that Biggio played well in that Cleveland series. That's got to continue this weekend. Now, somebody who definitely just needs to keep doing what he's been doing in his entire career, this guy mashes the Cleveland Guardians, and that series a few weeks back was no exception. How about a 939 career OPS against Cleveland in his career for George Springer. And Springer was 7 for 16 in that series, and he was the only Blue Jay. He played all 4 games. He was the only Jay that had a hit in all 4 of those games. Now, Matt Chapman, no surprise, he was terrible in that series. Matt Chapman is terrible. Everydayers will know I can't stand Matt Chapman. I think he absolutely reeks. He's hitting 200 since. Anyway, there I go again, getting ramped up again. Let's just move on. Dalton Varsho. Now, Dalton Varsho was just 2 for 12 in that series. But since, certainly worth noting, he's hitting over 300 since. That series was at the very beginning of August. We're now at the end of August, so it's a little bit, a pretty legit sample size there. Dalton Varsho has been very good the last couple of weeks. Davis Schneider, oh boy, that was the series right after that incredible Boston series he had. He went 0 for 9 in the Cleveland series. 3 walks, gotta like that, but 0 for 9, oh boy. And the catchers, Danny Jansen and Alejandro Kirk, whoever's catching on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, has to pick up the offense massively. They were combined 2 for 16 in that series. I mean, my goodness. Now, I'm going to mention this last player. Obviously, he's not a Blue Jay anymore, and we don't have to worry about this, but it's still funny to bring up that Paul DeYoung in that series against Cleveland was 0 for 11 with 5 strikeouts. I can't even get it out. I can't even say it. 0 for 11 with 5. My gosh, I'm 0 for 2 here. I'm like DeYoung. I'm getting out every time. Okay, come on. Paul DeYoung was 0 for 11 with 5 strikeouts. There, I got it out. Oh, my God. This guy was an absolute nightmare. Coming up on the Locked On Blue Jay podcast, more deep diving this weekend series versus the Cleve. But first, I wanted to talk about Sleeper. Sleeper is a fantasy sports plus real money gaming app focused on bringing people together through sports and gaming. Sleeper's become the fastest organically growing fantasy platform in the world, over 5 million active users in 2022 alone, while earning some of the highest levels of engagement per user in the industry. At Sleeper, it's not just about sports, it's about building personal connections and lasting memories. Swing for the fences on Sleeper picks, and you could win up to 100 times your money. Cha-ching, right? That's going to work. Predict the hottest baseball stats like home runs, hits, strikeouts, and much more to cash in on your daily fantasy baseball skills. Use the promo code LOCKED ON, and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 30 states. Check out Sleeper today. For the second time this season, the Blue Jays, tonight started, they'll face Tanner Bybee, rookie Tanner Bybee. Remember, Bybee was excellent. Remember now, this Cleveland team, they're missing their top two pitchers, and they still have so many good young pitchers coming up. If you're a believer that pitching wins games, pitching and defense, then this Cleveland team is going to be around for a while, and Tanner Bybee is going to be one of those reasons. I'm really liking what I'm seeing from him. I didn't like what I saw from him against the Blue Jays because it was too darn good. Blue Jays, in their entire history, they seem to always struggle against rookies. Well, it was no exception when they faced Bybee a few weeks back. Bybee authored 7 innings, 0 runs, 6 hits, just 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. And of those 6 hits over the 7 innings, they were all singles. I mean, he was good. He was really good. Now, Whit Merrifield in that game was 3 for 3. So again, talking about Whit, really just he wants to put this road trip in his rear view. Well, Tanner Bybee, as good as Bybee's been, Bybee might be a pitcher that helps Whit put that road trip in his rear view. Bybee's road ERA 4.02. Now, that's not bad at all. 4.02 road ERA, that's not even that bad. But when you consider it's double what his home ERA is, maybe there's some cause for optimism there for the Blue Jays. A really odd, and we're going to see this with Logan Allen as well on Saturday, really odd that these young Guardian righties, they really struggle against righties. It's odd. Lefties are really hitting both of these. Anyway, let's just focus on Bybee. So Bybee's given up 11 home runs this season. 9 of the 11 have been to righties. Okay. What are we going to see from Bybee tonight? Well, he's going to use his fastball, his slider, and his changeup. He's got 3 different pitches he'll go to get a strikeout. The slider and the changeup have been particularly effective. So if you're the Blue Jays tonight, I think you really need to look to pick on that fastball every day or so. No, that's something I've been, begging the Toronto Blue Jays to do a lot more of this season anyway. On the mound for the Blue Jays is going to be Chris Bassitt, the veteran righty. How about Chris Bassitt? Chris Bassitt ends the month of May at 5-4. He's 7-2 since. 7-2 since. Wow, Blue Jays 15-11 when the Hound is on the mound. Now, Chris Bassitt was the one Toronto starter that didn't pitch in that 4-game series against Cleveland back at the beginning of August, back a few weeks back. But in his career, he's had 5 starts against Cleveland, 1-2 record, 3.30. That's going to work. That's a nice little ERA there. Now, Chris Bassitt's road ERA, we know the Hound on the mound on the road has been an issue this season. His ERA is over 5 on the road, but at Rogers Center, in front of the home folks, 2.83 ERA. He's been excellent at home. Now, of the 8 pitches that, that Chris Bassitt throws, it's the slider that's given him the most issues, while the sweeper and the curveball have been amongst, his excellent pitches. Not a whole lot of experience for these Cleveland hitters against Chris Bassitt. Cole Calhoun 4 for 12, Miles Straw 5 for 12. The rest of the Guardians just have 10 at bats against Bassitt, but the good news is they're combined 0 for 10. And the great news is in that 0 for 10, Jose Ramirez is in there at 0 for 6. Okay, that is definitely going to work. And it's also definitely something I want to mention here, that no Guardian has ever homered off of Chris Bassitt. I think that's something we need to mention because Bassitt is already at a career high for home runs allowed. His 23, I believe his previous high was 21. He's already at 23 home runs allowed so far this season. Now, how about tomorrow's game? How about Saturday? 3:07 p.m. Eastern, first pitch. That game available, of course, on SiriusXM. Logan Allen, was just touching on him a second ago. Another really good looking rookie for this Cleveland pitching staff. 6-6 on the season, 3.31 ERA. He's got an even 100 strikeouts. Now 2-4 with a 3.70 ERA at home, but 4-2 with a 2.85 ERA on the road. So, and he was good against the Blue Jays at home, but you see overall he's been much better on the road. How about the Guardians? The Guardians are 7-2 in Allen's 9 road starts, and in the 2 losses, they scored 3 total runs. So if Logan Allen is on a road mound for the Cleveland Guardians and their offense does anything, they win pretty much every time. I'm just going to say I'm concerned about Saturday. I will say that I'm concerned about Saturday. Logan Allen is one of the main reasons I'm concerned about Saturday. When Allen pitched against the Blue Jays a couple weeks back, it was 5 innings pitched, 1 run on 4 hits, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts. That was the game. Remember the previous day, Cleveland won 1-0. Then Logan Allen started the very next day, and Toronto won 1-0. That was the Toronto 1-0 game. Now in August, Logan Allen's ERA is under 2. I mean, is that good? That's a glass half empty for the Blue Jays. And in the month of August, opponents hitting just 203 versus the rookie. He's got, just like Tanner Bybee, he's got 3 different pitches that he'll go to get the strikeout. He's got a 4-seamer, a changeup, and a sweeper. Now, again, I just don't get it. Righties do damage again. He kills lefties. Righties do damage. The righties have done damage versus Logan Allen's cutter. Lefties have had some success against the 4-seamer, but 11 of the 12 home runs allowed have been to righties. Hey, Vlad. Vlad, I mean, hey, faites attention, please, Vlad. My God, have you been a nightmare at the plate this season? And any production, any home run power, especially at Rogers Center, here's back-to-back righties that struggle against righties. I'm looking right at you, Vlad. Come on, big fella. Come on. Lefties hitting under 200 versus Logan Allen. And again, if you're the lefty tonight, that's the one pitch that you can have success, or that lefties have had success against Logan Allen, is that 4-seamer. That's the one you've got to pick out. In that start a few weeks back, against Logan Allen, Matt Chapman 0 for 2, Danny Jansen 0 for 2, Dalton Varsho 0 for 2. Now, Vladdy and Witt each went 1 for 3. Come on. Now, George Springer, didn't we say, right? George Springer, he had a great series. That Blue Jays offense in that Cleveland series was atrocious. Not George Springer. Remember, 7 for 16 in that series. Well, against Logan Allen, 2 for 3. His solo home run was the only run of the game. Let's go, George Springer. Going to be opposed, Logan Allen, going to be opposed by Hyun-jin Ryu. Everydayers will know I did not expect anything. I did not expect production from Hyun-jin Ryu in 2023. I thought he was pretty much done as a Toronto Blue Jay. So seeing him come back, the great sponsor for the show, Game Time. You know, I used the Game Time app to buy tickets to go see his return against Baltimore. Did not like what I saw. You know, I reported back the next day. Loved what I saw from the curveball. That was all. But since that start, and a couple innings in that start and the 3 starts that have followed, Ryu right now is at 17 1/3 innings straight in a row of no earned runs. Remember, there's a Brandon Belt error in there that allowed 2 runs, both unearned. I think, did Vladdy have the other error? I think it was Vladdy. So the first baseman not doing a lot to help Ryu. But overall, right now, he's on a streak of 17 1/3 of no innings pitched. My goodness. Made that return from injuries, had the 3 starts since. Made the return from injury against Baltimore, had the 3 starts since, and the Blue Jays have won all 3 of those starts. Now, in Ryu's first 2 starts of the 4, he got the Kevin Gausman treatment, 3 runs and 3 runs. But in his last 2 starts, Blue Jays have scored 11 runs and 10 runs. More of that, please, and thank you. Lefties hitting just 154 versus Hyun-jin Ryu. He's smashing them right now. Love it. Now, the fastball's been good. The curveball's been great. The changeup is the pitch we're going to have to watch tonight. That's going to be the key for Hyun-jin Ryu. There's been times this season where he's been really good and effective, located the changeup really well. When that happens, it's strikeouts. But there have been other times where he's not located the changeup and has got dealt with. So that is the pitch we're going to have to keep an eye on tonight. Cole Calhoun, 3 for 7 lifetime with a home run against Hyun-jin Ryu. J-Ram, 2 for 8 against Hyun-jin Ryu. And I'm just going to mention one more time, just going to, feel like it's fair to be on the record about this. I'm concerned with how the Blue Jays bats will do against Logan Allen. So we're going to need a really good game on Saturday from the monster, Hyun-jin Ryu. How about Sunday's game? 1:37 p.m. Eastern. First pitch, of course, available on SiriusXM. On the mound for the Cleveland Guardians is the corpse of Noah Syndergaard, who somehow tossed 5 2/3 very good innings versus the Blue Jays 2 weeks ago. Make it make sense. He's only had 1. He was picked up at the trade deadline. He's only had 1 road start so far for Cleveland. He was rocked. The Blue Jays. Now this is the Sunday game. Remember, now this is 3 straight Sundays in a row where the Blue Jays have scored at least double digits. Come on. I don't think I'm asking to. Well, I am asking a lot to have it be a 4 straight Sunday on the surface, yes. But against Noah Syndergaard, I mean, come on. The only I'll say this, is it ironically, but I'll give some credit to Syndergaard and the Guardians. And that, remember, we were talking earlier how they just lost 3 out of 4 to the Dodgers. Well, the only win in there was actually Syndergaard, and he pitched well, 6 innings, just 3 runs on 4 hits. But overall, I just think he's definitely done, and the Blue Jays should be hitting him on Sunday. He's made 4 starts with the Guardians. Watch the home runs he's allowed. You're already going to see where I'm going with this, but watch the home runs Syndergaard's allowed. He allowed 4 in his first start with Cleveland, then 0, 2, and 1. So in 2 of his 4 starts, he's allowed multiple home runs. 1, he allowed 1,000 home runs. For that, oh my gosh. Who do you think the opponent was that he allowed the 0 home runs to? Any guesses? Oh, hands are up. Yeah, the Toronto Blue Jays. You already saw where I was going with that. My goodness. And to make it a little, matters a little bit scarier, no current Toronto Blue Jay has ever homered off the man they call Thor. Syndergaard throws 6 different pitches. Now, the only 2 that the Blue Jays will want to avoid tonight, and unless there's 2 strikes, of course, have to protect the plate, the 4-seamer and the curveball. Anything else, fair game, get up there and look to have Syndergaard pay. He's not going to be, pinpoint with his location. Toronto Blue Jays, come on. I was so upset about with how poorly they did against Syndergaard a couple weeks back. One Blue Jay that I do not think we will see on Sunday, but it's John Schneider, so who knows. But Brandon Belt in his career has 24 at-bats against Thor, 2 hits. 2 hits, 2 for 24 with 7 strikeouts. Goodness. Oh, goodness. Whit Merrifield. Do you want Davis Schneider in the game? Davis Schneider played in that game against Syndergaard a couple weeks back. Went 0 for 2, but did have a walk. I might prefer that because Whit Merrifield in his career against Noah Syndergaard was just 4 for 17. How did George Springer do in that game, or how was he done career-wise against Syndergaard and in that game a few weeks back? How about 3 for 4? 3 for 4. I mean, what are we seeing here, right? This should be a big weekend for George Springer. He hammers Cleveland Guardians pitching. On the mound for the Toronto Blue Jays on Sunday, Yusei Kikuchi. Now, the last time out was an absolute stinker against Baltimore, but it was his first start since July 6th where he allowed more than 1 earned run. I mean, has this guy earned a pass? This guy has earned a pass from that last start. Now, Kikuchi was the loser in that 1-0 game a few weeks back in Cleveland that Cleveland won, but how good was he? 7 innings pitched, 1 run on 3 hits, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. Kikuchi was awesome against Cleveland a few weeks back. Speaking of awesome, Blue Jays are 8-3 in Yusei Kikuchi's 11 home starts. Holy moly. Yusei himself at Rogers Center, his own stats, 5-2 with a nifty little 3.24 ERA. Opponents hitting just .219 versus Kikuchi at Rogers Center. Have we seen a turnaround here? My goodness. How about this? In the month of August, this will be Kikuchi's 5th start. 22 strikeouts versus 3 walks. Are you absolutely kidding me? The way this guy has turned around his control, I mean, remarkable. 22 strikeouts versus 3 walks. It's the end of August. That's his numbers for August. I mean, wow. I want to take you back to July 6th. 3rd inning, Blue Jays, White Sox. Eloy Jimenez hits a 2-run home run off of Kikuchi. In the 42 1/3 innings that have followed, 42 1/3 innings, Kikuchi hasn't allowed a home run. This guy spent most of the first half of the season leading the league with most home runs allowed in his last 4 since July 6th. That's 42 1/3 innings. It's the end of April. It's the end of August. We're talking from July 6th, 42 1/3, no home runs allowed. My goodness. Now, ironically, Kikuchi's changeup is not, for me anyway, I don't feel like it's been as good this season as it has been in the past, but that new slider, remember Kevin Gosman, because of the movement it generates, he refers to it as a sliderish change, a sliderish curve. It's been incredible, and the 4-seamer has been completely superior to anything we've seen in the past from Yusei Kikuchi. Cole Calhoun, I mean, he's the usual suspect here, right? He's the only one who's had any success against these Blue Jay pitchers in his career. Well, he's 3 for 8. Those 3 hits against Kikuchi, of course. Those 3 hits, a double and 2 home runs. So I'm going to have to watch that matchup tonight. Jose Ramirez, 3 for 11. Even Ramirez has struggled against a lot of these Blue Jay pitchers, but we're not going to, you're not exactly going to be confident. We're not exactly going to be happy. Let's put it that way. We're not exactly going to be glad when Jose Ramirez strides to the plate, right? We know he has to be dealt with. Now, the other current Guardians, they're just 15 for 71 against Kikuchi. That's a .211 batting average. That's a wrap for Friday's episode. That's a wrap for this week's episode of the Locked On Blue Jay podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I certainly hope you enjoyed these episodes. For now, keep it locked on the Locked On Podcast Network and check out Sully hosting Locked On MLB. Go Jays go. And how do we always finish our Friday shows? I always wish you that I hope you see a lot. I hope your weekend is chock full of Toronto Blue Jay victories.